the field of touch footy. But before we get to that, a big wrap for our sponsors. Thanks to CCSC, Central Coast Sports College, and also thanks to Nathan Healy and Play Awake. Coach, every guest we have has been an amazing sporting career, sporting life. This one is no exception. Take us through this man's background in football, touch footy, etc.
Yes, RJ, it's Matt Sawyer. He was a shy boy from Woy Woy who became more expressive and enhanced by playing and being involved in sport. It was touch footy that he excelled at, a sport many sports people played in the off-season to keep fit and connect with friends. But Matt made it to the elite level, where the speed of foot and decision-making is much more elevated and technically and tactically more intriguing and awe-inspiring to watch. He started playing at Woy Woy Touch at 13, and by 16 he was representing Woy Woy Touch in the men's under-20 at the New South Wales State Cup. In 1992, at 17, he was vice-captain of the New South Wales CHS team that defeated Queensland to be crowned national champions. That same year, he toured the South Pacific with the New South Wales CHS team, was an Australian CHS representative and tour captain that toured New Zealand, and was awarded a New South Wales CHS Blues Award for touch. Longevity is a huge measuring stick in assessing someone's success and achievements, and Matt certainly conquers that category, having played at 35 consecutive state cups. Amazing, ranging from men's under-20s to mixed 40s. He was the first male player from the Central Coast to represent Australia in touch at open level. He is a Peninsula Touch Association life member and was awarded a New South Wales Touch Association Blues Award. He has been faced with injury and health issues that he overcome and continues to play, coach, mentor and develop the next generation. His dedication and passion for the sport are admired and he is held in high esteem by all. Matt, it's with great pleasure that we welcome you to the Victory Wrap.
Wow, what an intro. Thanks, guys. It's great to see you again.
Yes.
You reflect back on that, and it's certainly been a long journey.
It certainly has, mate. We've known you for a long time through touch and through the Office of Sport, where you're still employed. And, going back to those early years, of course, a lot of sport you would have played. I noticed it was indoor hockey, rugby league, athletic surfing, a bit of golf as well. So you're a bit of a multi-sports person, but touch footy eventually became your choice of sport, wasn't it?
It was, and look, I was one of those kids who just loved sport. Any sort of ball I could have in my hand, I'd have it in my hand every day after school on the weekends, and I just loved being active. And in the end, touch football became the sport that I gravitated to, and I guess I say the rest is history, but Dale's give everyone a fairly good rundown of that.
Matt, tell us about the family and growing up on the peninsula. Everywhere changes. What was the peninsula like back in your young years and your family?
I loved it, and I still call myself a proud Woy Woy boy. I'm very proud to come from there, and we had the best time on the peninsula growing up. Look, sometimes it cops a bit of a bad rap. Look, every place has its issues, but I fondly remember after school putting the surfboard under the arm, getting the bike out of the shed, and catching up with the mates on OB Road, paddling down to Umina Beach and catching a wave most afternoons in the summer after school. And, back in those days, we kind of lived in different times, I guess. And, just be home before the street lights come on, that old thing. And that was how we lived on the peninsula in those days. And, it was a fantastic place to grow up. Well, some say I never did grow up, but I love spending my childhood there.
You've always been a mature man for us, mate. Now, I just noticed that little line here, that shy kid. You didn't actually play competitive sport until year 12. A lot of kids start earlier. They're doing under 8s, under 9s, under 10s. So you held back a little bit. Why was that?
It was actually when I turned 12 rather than actually in year 12. But look, I don't know. I was just a shy kid. Very introverted, and I played a lot of school sport, and there probably wasn't as many opportunities to play school sport in those days, but rugby league was a game that I loved, and I played that for school, and had a bunch of mates who played rugby league, and they always said to me, Matty, you go well, come and play, and they played with Woy Woy in those days. And I remember one day my dad, I finally got the courage to go down to Rogers Park to train with the boys in their team, and I sat in the car. I didn't get out. And my mates all come up and knocked on and said, "Hey, Matty, come out, come and train and play." And I was just scared, and I was just shy, and I didn't get out of the car. And but I guess the next year I sort of branched out and started playing playing footy when I moved on to St Eddie's and started high school. So yeah.
Matt, do you think sport has helped you overcome that shyness? Because you're well-rounded now. You know, I think a lot of, myself included, I remember being shy as a youngster, believe it or not.
Hard to believe.
But
Very hard to believe.
do you think sport has helped? Because I think it does.
Absolutely. Look, and the ability to play with your mates and the people that you love is a really important thing. And you know, I guess that's littered throughout my sporting history, my participation. But yeah, look, you learn so many lessons from sport, and one of those is how to interact with others and how to form part of a team, and that comes with its ups and its downs as well. And yeah, like it was definitely something that brought me out of my shell.
Yeah, mate, you commenced touch at age 13 back in 1988. So where was the introduction from? You played league for St Eddie's. Where was the introduction to touch? And you thought, yes, let's give this a try, not knowing where it's going to take you.
It was a new sport back in those days. Look at that. I think the old Woy Woy Touch footy started in 1979. I didn't start playing till I was sort of in my early teens, but we had a bunch of mates who all played footy, and we thought, well, let's give this game of touch footy a try, and we entered the team at Woy Woy, and we loved it. I mean, I loved it, and you know, for the next 40 years of my life, I guess I played, so it obviously held some sort of appeal for me.
Yeah.
Mate, going back to league, you know, what position did you play? What team did you follow? And did you have a hero as a youngster?
Yeah, look, speed was probably my asset as a youngster, so I played a lot in 5/8 centres and a bit of fullback. I wasn't a natural ball player, so 5/8 didn't come naturally to me. I had to work hard at that, and that probably transferred into the way I played touch as well. I had to work hard at those things that I did. But look, I love tackling. I really love that physical contact, and I'm not going to say I was the best defender going around, but geez, I love that contact. And I was actually, and still am, a North Sydney Bears supporter.
Right.
So very excited for a couple of years when the Perth Bears come back. And
long way for a home game, mate.
It is. I'm prepared to make the travel to see those guys back playing rugby league. Would be great. But yeah, look, and I really enjoyed rugby league, and I only played up until I was in the under-16s. I played for St Eddie's for 4 years, and then I went down to Woy Woy after I left there and went to high school down on the Peninsula at Woy Woy High, and played a year there. And look, I gave it up in year 12 to concentrate on HSC. My intention was to always go back and play rugby league again because I did love it, but ended up going to uni down in St George, and you know, that first semester was really difficult in terms of the time I needed to my uni commitments, and I just never got back to playing rugby league, which is kind of a bit of a regret for me because I love that sport as well. But look, you know, life takes you down different paths, and that's the path I went down. Yeah,
3 years after playing touch, 1991. You commenced your representative career, I guess, with the Woy Woy Touch men's under-20 at the State Cup at Port Macquarie, which is a big event, isn't it? Every year, still going. How did the team go? How did you go?
Look, to be honest, I don't even remember that first year I played. That's so long ago. But you mentioned State Cup. It's the pinnacle of touch football. That's what every team wants to win. It's almost like the celebration at the end of the year as well. And those early years, we were competitive at Woy Woy. I think one year we made the semi-finals. Got beat by South Sydney. Unlucky not to beat those guys and to get through to the final. But look, we had some successes in those early days, but most of them tended to come later on in my career.
Yep.
Matt, I did go to the State Cup once, but much more social player. But the thing that was eye-catching to me was how it was put together. You know, the amount of teams there, how it was run. It was amazing. I had my mouth open seeing how it was coordinated. Was that something as a 13-year-old that struck you as well? How have they brought all this together, and the quality of touch that's played as well?
As a young person, when you go up there, you're a bit of a deer in the headlights. You don't understand how big it is. And you mentioned how well it's run. And you know, hats off to New South Wales Touch. They do a fantastic job hosting that tournament year after year. And there's just a vibe there that unless you've been up there and experienced it, you just don't understand. And it happens in all other sports too, right? But for us, it is just that time of year to reconnect with mates who you might have met in other teams from other parts of the state, as well as going away and playing with your own mates. It's something I look forward to. unfortunately, when I go there this year, I won't be playing. But I'm still looking forward to getting up there and reconnecting.
You'll have the boots in the bag, in the boot of the car, mate, I'm sure, just in
Possibly.
case. Mate, 35 consecutive years of the State Cup, so you're like an institution there, aren't you? With the team working away from the men's under 20s through to the mixed 40s. So you've gone through the age groups. What about the evolution of touch from the 20s to now? It has undergone some changes. It's so fast now, isn't it? It's lightning quick.
Yeah, look, there's no substitute for speed in the game these days, and look, the game has undergone a huge change in terms of the way it's played.
Yep.
Back when I started to now, it's a much faster game. There's much less margin for error, and it's a highly skilled and highly technical game now. Although it is in essence, it's still a simple game.
Yep.
But huge changes from the way I first saw it. You go back and have a look at some of the old footage, you go, wow, was that the game I played back then?
That's right.
Well, Matt, let's go back to then. 1992, still at school. What a year for you. You get to that representative level at school, make the New South Wales side, state of origin against Queensland. What was that like? You were the national champions, but what was it like going out representing New South Wales against the enemy?
Yeah, so look, I guess my first taste of that was at school level in CHS, and we had a red hot team that year. Some young Indigenous guys from all parts of the state, they lit up the fields that year, and I was in awe of those guys. And I guess kind of played second fiddle to them because they knew the game, they played it well, they played on instinct, and it's just so good to watch. Look, and beating Queensland is always a good thing, which we managed to do that year. And look, and in that same year, obviously, I made the Australian CHS team, and on both those fronts, both the New South Wales and Australian teams, I got to tour parts of the world that I probably never thought I would playing touch footy. So look, that was amazing, an amazing experience. I'm really grateful that the sport has provided that for me because not everyone gets that opportunity.
Absolutely. Mate, I'm just interested, from a shy 13-year-old vice captain of the New South Wales side, then you're tour captain of the Australian CHS. So were you, more extroverted, out of your shell? Were you, did you lead by example or words? What were you like then as the tour captain?
Look, I think it was probably that leadership by example. If I can share a little story, and I'm not going to name names here, but when we went on our tour to the South Pacific with the New South Wales CHS team, a few of the guys were playing up one night, and I said, look guys, I don't think you should be doing what you're doing. That would get us all into trouble. And they said, Matty, get the hell out of here. So look, they did what they did. Right. They copped a bit of grief for it. And I almost got dragged into it, but fortunately those guys said, look, Matty tried to stop us. So
they stood up for you.
They stood up for me.
Yeah, good.
And full credit to them. And look, I think potentially the coaches, managers saw that bit of a leadership in me and said, look, here's a role for you to play on the upcoming Australian CHS team, and you deserve it. So look, that was a bit of a look, I felt good about that, but by the same token,
you would have liked to have been part of the group.
Matty, you talked about how the game's evolved. Let's go back to those times when you made the Australian CHS team. What was the level of touch like at those Pacific Island countries like New Zealand, Cook Islands, Tonga, and Hawaii? Was it at the same level, or were you superior at that stage?
Yeah, look, we were superior, but they were developing, and I guess to a certain extent they still are developing. And the way they play the game is different. They haven't had, I guess, the history that we've had in terms of that elite level participation. So, but I guess for us, it was a privilege to go over there and help them along their journey as well, to get them to potentially raise the level of touch they're playing and do whatever we could to increase, I guess, the profile of touch also in some of those developing countries. So look, it was, as I said before, it was an honour and a privilege to be able to do that. And look, we may have played a small part, but we had a good time at the same time as well. So
you ended up being part of the group, mate, and partying, did you? Is that the story?
I might just leave that for another podcast.
Okay, that's it. So the results when you went to the South Pacific and when you went to New Zealand with the Australian team, did you win? Did you win all the games, or were there tough matches? Was there a loss in there? What was the record like?
Look, New Zealand are always tough to beat, and look, fortunately we did. In our CHS trip to New Zealand, we lost one game, and the girls' team went through undefeated. So they always have that up on us, and they had a reunion a couple of years ago. They reminded us of that they went through undefeated and we got beat, but we ended up winning the tournament, as did they. And look, I think even in those days, the touch football played in Australia was of better quality than that in New Zealand, but
Sure.
that gap has closed a lot. New Zealand are really competitive these days.
Oh, absolutely.
But again, the game was kind of in its infancy then a little bit too, so different game to what we're playing now.
Sure.
Matt, as a player now and even back then, we talk about position structure, touch. You got your centres, you got your links, you got your wingers. Where were you versatile, or did you have a set area you like to play?
Look, I was predominantly a link, and that's where you tend to have your speed players. So that's where I played a lot of my early touch. But I guess locally, I then gravitated towards the middle simply because we just probably needed someone in there. So I became a middle, but my preference definitely in the early days was a link. I could see things better. I had a little bit more time to react, and that was kind of my game. Like I said before, I was never a natural ball player. That was something that I really had to work on, but speed was my weapon, and that's where you get to use it, is out in the link. But
Sure.
that was in those days, and speed across the park is the key.
Yeah, it's gold, isn't
these
it?
days.
Yeah. All right, back with more of our CCSE Sports Podcast with Matt Sawyer. And if you're a young athlete or raising one, Central Coast Sports College, CCSE is the place to be. Now, it's the only school in New South Wales with a full-time integrated sports program, helping students chase their sporting dreams and complete their education. And as they hit senior years, students also gain real-world skills through internship and hands-on experience to set them up for their future. So if you're looking for a school that supports both academic and athletic success, check out Central Coast Sports College at ccsc.nsw.edu.au. It's the very best of both worlds.
Well, Matt, that shy boy from Woy Woy seems so far away now. What you're achieving in the game in that 1992 year, and to top it all off, you get the CHS Blues Award. Tell us how great that felt to be awarded that in your last year at school.
Yeah, look, it's quite an honour. It's the highest honour you can get in the CHS system for participating in sport. And I guess the big thrill for me too was we had our presentation. I think it was down at Barara RSL. And Steve Menzies got an award for rugby league in the same year. So that was probably as much of a thrill as it was for me getting the award myself. So, yeah.
What about coming through the senior ranks, playing touch footy in the State Cup? Any well-known rugby league players, because that used to be the go, as Dale said, after the season finished, you'd keep fit by playing touch in the summer. So were there any players that you've continually bumped into, big names in rugby league, but were up there for the touch footy event?
Yeah, look, I remember we played mixed open. It would have been back in the early 90s, semi-final we played against Manly. We played against guys like Steve Menzies, Hopewadi. You see the guys like Scott Prince are still playing up there at mixed open level.
Sure.
Some of the older guys, I mean, Paul Gallen's been up there playing for a couple of years.
He wouldn't pass the ball, would he? He'd just try and crash through it, wouldn't he?
Well, look, I've never seen him play, but I imagine that'd be his go. Cliffy Lyons still plays up there too.
He's amazing.
So it's kind of littered with ex-rugby league players who love the game.
Matt, to play at that level, 3 years after, when you are 20, you're in the New South Wales men's 20 side, national champions as well. Tell us what it was like. You normally played against these players at State Cup level, and then to come together, what was it like training with these guys and then playing with them as well at that level?
Yeah, look, it was really an experience. There were some quality players in that under-20s team that won the Nationals that year. And a lot of guys from down in Sydney who, like you said, you play against. So to be able to play beside them and also learn from them was a fantastic opportunity. And we had a good year. We had a great coach, Adam Collins, who lives up here on the Central Coast now. A great mentor, a great coach, and he really did a great job of bringing that team together. And ultimately, I think it was his leadership that got us that title that year.
What about coaching? You're doing that now, but being coached back when you were playing, were there a couple of guys that really enhanced your game, if you like, through some subtle, coaching tips? Anyone that comes to mind that you'd like to give a bit of a rap to?
Oh, look, there's probably three guys that come to mind. When I first started playing, what they called Met North Touch in those days through the CHS system, like guys like Paul Beebe and Gary Clark, coaching me, legends of touch football on the Central Coast. And then probably Lee Thompson a bit later on down the track. So those guys taught me a lot, and not just about the game of touch footy, but about myself. I know you probably hear that a lot, but those guys really did, and pleasure to be coached by, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Matt, we go back to that 1995 final where you were national champions. It was the blackout final. Tell us why that was and what was it like playing in that?
So we played up on the Gold Coast for that tournament, and I'm assuming someone didn't pay the electricity bill because with about 8 minutes to go, maybe 10 minutes to go in the grand final against Queensland, the lights went out. And we thought, what the hell is going on here? And yeah, so obviously we had to stop the game. It was pitch black. And it was a really, look, I've never been a person who gets inside their own head and gets in the zone, so to speak. I think that's the first time I actually got in the zone, because we had to spend the next 20 minutes waiting for the lights to come on before we could actually play the game again. And I remember vividly all of us guys in the team standing around in the circle, and some other bloke, I don't even know who he was, some hanger-on from the New South Wales contingent started trying to rev us up, and he was going ballistic trying to keep us pumped up for this game. I thought, that's really not what I need right now. So I just separated myself. I just started doing loops around our guy, just walking slowly around there just to get that guy's voice out of my head. And somehow I got in the zone, and never been there before and probably never get there again, but I was just so focused. I just realised by being in my own head and taking that bit of time out and understanding the job I needed to do when I got back on the field, 7 or 8 minutes to play, and we got back on there. I think we were leading probably maybe 3-1 at that time, held them out. They didn't score again. We didn't score again either. We didn't need to. But it was a different experience for
Bizarre.
me. It was. And look, it's something that I'd never done before. And look, once that game was over, it was a huge relief as much as anything.
Was that guy in there celebrating with you, Matt, afterwards?
Look, if he was, I didn't pay any attention to him. I don't even know who the black was, let's be honest.
And I'm just figuring that the lights went out because you were leading 3-1, so this was a Queensland ploy, if you like, to put you off your game. But you end up winning, as you said. And further honours too, mate. 1996-97 New South Wales Mixed Open New Zealand Tour. Take us through that. How many games did you play? You got it's the girls and the guys together. So yeah, take us through the team there. That sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, we travelled to a few of the regional locations, Canterbury, Waikato, and played some of their regional teams there. And look, again, we're probably competing against regional teams, so we're probably a cut above. Played some good touch, had some good times, and I guess probably the good times probably stood out more than what the touch did on that particular tour. But look, and again, I was able to do that with some really close friends, and Dean Wilbo comes to mind. Good mate, Dino, and played with him in that team, and again a whole bunch of different people that that I still connect with when I want to go up to State Cup. So look, that was a really good tour, and again, very fortunate that opportunity came to me. Yeah,
Matt, I'm interested in mixed at that level too. You've got the males and the females playing. Is it like for like? Do the girls have their areas on the field and they sub for each other, or are you quite versatile in moving different areas, male to female, in the same area on the field?
No, look, typically in mixed touch, you'll have 2 girl wingers and a girl link. Then you'll have the 2 guy males and a guy link. And you don't tend to stray from that too much. And I guess one of the keys to being successful in mixed touch football is getting those mismatches. So in attack, getting a guy with the ball, attacking a female defender, and that's the trick. And it used to be that mix was kind of the best of the next lot of players who didn't make men's or women's opens. I think that's changed a lot. I think there's a skill to playing mixed touch now, particularly at that elite level, that probably sets you aside and makes you a better mixed player, potentially than simply a men's or women's player.
What about when you're named in the team? Obviously, you've got to get the team together. You've got to train. So was training close by? Did you have to go interstate at any stage to train to meet the other players in your teams?
Yeah, so we had for the Australian team, we had a training camp at Armidale University 1 year, and look, getting everyone together was a challenge because they come from a long way away in Queensland, and obviously New South Wales, they could have come from anywhere as well. So we only probably had 1 or 2 training camps that year, but training programs we had to do on our own. So and that's always a challenge, trying to bring a team together, particularly a mixed team.
Matt, we talk about that rivalry between New South Wales and Queensland in all sports. What's it like at touch level? You've experienced that.
Absolutely. Look, and It won't change across any sport. There's always that rivalry, and look, one of the memories that sticks out for me, and I didn't play in this game, I think actually Dean Wilbo did, was the infamous brawl, the first State of Origin game they played at as part of State Cup one year. Everyone knew it was happening, and I guess that there was always that hatred there, and it spilled out on the field that days, and we look back on that and go, it probably wasn't great for the game, but it also put the game on the map. And it's that hatred, that rivalry between New South Wales and Queensland that helps to, I guess, raise the profile of our sport too. It certainly has, and that continues to do that with the State of Origin series that run in the game of touch footy. Yeah,
the introduction of OzTag. I think everyone was saying it was going to be the death of touch footy, but it's survived and flourished. But it did take a lot of players away from touch originally, I think. A lot of them have come back. How did you feel about the impact when it started to gain momentum? And the Coast is a powerhouse in OzTag.
Yeah, look, and kudos to them. Obviously, there's an appeal there for people who want to play OzTag. It's a different game than touch football, and there's no reason why someone couldn't play both if they wanted to. But I think, and look, while I've never played OzTag, I think the appeal for that is for probably those ex-leagueies who still love that contact. They love to kick the ball, and you don't have to worry about the drop ball rules because you drop it backwards in OzTag, you keep playing on. So it's a vastly different game to touch, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah, they've gone their separate ways, and look, has it taken players away from touch football? Yeah, quite likely, but that's okay. Yeah, people are out there playing what they love, and that's what matters in the end.
Yeah.
Matt, I think the important thing is to focus on your sport and the juniors, the development programs. So they are good development programs put in place for young girls and boys getting into the game?
In my day, that didn't exist. So the way that it's gone ahead in leaps and bounds now is really good for the game, and it needed to be. If touch was going to compete as one of the popular sports for kids, those pathways need to be created, and the state and national bodies and the local bodies have done a really good job in creating those pathways and just making touch a really inclusive game for both boys and girls. So yeah, look, it's certainly far better than what it was.
All right, first male player from the Central Coast to represent Australia at touch at the open level. That's quite an honour, mate. That when you were announced as that player, did it have an impact on you? How did you feel when you're going, gee, I'm the first player from the Coast that's done that? You've set the bar.
Yeah, look, I don't think it was ever formally announced. It was just something that sort of came to light at one point. And look, just to be clear, I wasn't the first player. I was the first at open level. So you had guys who came before me, like your Paul Beebe's and your Gary Clarks, who played at those 35s, 40s and 45s level. And certainly guys that come after me, like Dean Wilbo, Dylan Hennessy, who played at open mixed and open men's levels, who came after me. So, look, it is an absolute honour, and I didn't realise that was the case until several years ago. And actually, I think, Rick, it might have come to light soon after we had the old Central Coast Sports Award, and you compared one night, and I think myself and...
Was I okay? Did I get through okay?
Exceptional as always.
Oh, Matt, come on.
Thank you.
And at that time, I think it was Karina Castle back then, Karina Hatton now. She played in the Australian mixed team with me. We played together, and she got nominated as well. And I think she's actually, the first female open level to play from the Central Coast as well. So.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Matt, it's a proud thing to carry good for you, one of your school friends, Damien Brown, who we have done a podcast with, the first Mariner ever signed. So you'll always have that, the first male from the Central Coast to play at open level. So it's a proud thing to carry, especially when you are dealing with the development of young boys and girls, having that respect as well.
Yeah, it is. And look, it's something that I guess no one can take away. But look, I'm a humble kind of guy. Most people wouldn't know that. A few more might know after this podcast. But, it is a proud honour, and look, I wouldn't have got there without the support of my family and at the time. So look, very grateful to have the opportunities and to do that.
All right, back with more of Matty Sawyer in just a minute. But if you're feeling frustrated or struggling with your performance in sport or any arena, Play Awake, a profound innovation created by former professional tennis player Nathan Healy, is here to help. With Play Awake, Nathan and his team can show you how to pave your way by unlocking your potential and inspiring the pure joy, creativity and passion. If for your chosen craft. As former coach of dual Grand Slam champion Leighton Hewitt, he knows how to improve your game and your mind. Play Awake offers athletes and performers the opportunity to evolve, and with one-on-one sessions as well as group workshops with Nathan and his team, the results will be transformative. Like to know more about Play Awake? Contact Nathan and Co. via the website playawake.com.au to schedule a consultation today. Phone 0419 692 456 or email nathan@playawake.com.au.
Matt, we all love sport and we encourage all youngsters to play sport, but it does come with the downsides, the injuries. And you've had your own, you've suffered 2 ACL injuries at State Cup both times. Tell us about the first one first, 2002, how it happened and how you navigated getting back to be able to play again at the State Cup the following year.
Yeah, it was actually in the semi-final of Mixed Open against Manly. I mentioned before we played, Menzies and Hopewadi's in that game.
Yeah.
Look, it was just a routine drive up the middle. I jumped the ball, stepped off, and my leg collapsed underneath me. I've gone, that didn't feel great. Got up, I thought, I better head off. So I jogged off the sideline, and look, with a bit of a background in sports science and sports medicine, I kind of knew the mechanism. And I thought, that's probably an ACL. I thought, I'm going to test this. So I ran up and down the sideline, did a little bit of sidestepping, but not too much. For those of you with any knowledge around that, if you run in a straight line, you're pretty okay. It's when you actually try to sidestep that you have problems and your knee collapses. So I tested a little bit on the sideline. I thought, I might be okay. I might have dodged a bullet here. So I went back on, and as soon as I stepped laterally, when I got on there, the same thing happened again. I went down, the knee collapsed, and off I went. We won that game. We end up then obviously playing in the grand final. So the first grand final that the team I made qualified for, I didn't play in.
Yeah.
We unfortunately lost that grand final to Powerhouse's Kiama in that year, which is a bit disappointing that I didn't get to play and we lost. But and look, I'd never suffered a serious injury before, and I know how serious an ACL can be, so it was a bit of a shock.
And of course, it came back 5 years later, so you've recovered, you're back playing again, and 2007 you've done it again, which would have been much harder to negotiate, I think, after that second injury. What's going on, you're thinking,
Look, in a way, and it was the other leg this time too. So I've done the pair now. But look, I knew what I was in for straight away. I knew I'd done it. I didn't need a physio to tell me that. But it was kind of okay, I've done both now. What does that mean for me? What happens from here is at the end of my playing career in touch footy. Sure. And while I know many people come back from doing ACLs and doing them again or doing the other one, I just didn't know what that meant for me at the time. So.
Well, Matt, it was hard for you to navigate as well, not only physically to get back, but emotionally as well, to overcome that, to get back to playing at the level you were used to playing at.
Yeah, it was. And look, the ACL that I did in 2007 led to a whole range of other issues for me. I just mentioned I wasn't sure whether I'd get back. And look, I was fortunate enough to get the operation done just before Christmas, which meant that I didn't have to wait till January or February, and I could actually probably achieve that goal of getting back for the next State Cup. But I remember that year I was showering on Christmas morning and had these sudden chest pains and dizziness, and I thought, hang on, what's going on here? When I look back on it, we did a whole range of tests and found nothing, but I ended up in hospital on Christmas Day that year, trying to find out what was going on there. But that sort of led to a whole range of other issues that I experienced for the rest of that year. Look, mentally and physically. So that was the second one was much more challenging in that regard. Yeah,
Christmas Day in hospital. Did the nurses look after you, mate? Did they give you the right food, like a bit of pudding or something like that?
Look, I'm not a pudding eater, but the staff there are always fantastic, so I have no complaints.
All right, well, you did get back and you continued on and still playing and coaching. So the state of touch football now on the coast particularly, is it still really strong, thriving, developing, new kids coming and going? How would you rate the state of touch football on the coast now?
Look, we're lucky to have, I guess, 2 red-hot men's teams that have been competing at the top level in men's opens at State Cup last couple of years, so the Dolphins and Dawson. Between them, they've probably taken out 2 or 3 titles over the last few years. So at the elite level, we're very well placed on the Central Coast, and certainly throughout all the age groups, we're always competitive depending on what affiliate you come from. But I think we continue to grow here on the Central Coast, and I guess we have those opportunities to play in the competitions like your Vorden Cups and Country Championships and that kind of thing. So we're positioned quite well, but there's always room for improvement.
Matt, you spoke about the disappointment of missing out on that 2002 grand final in the touch. You have won 4 state cups. Tell us about those, what it was like. You know, we spoke about the enormity of the New South Wales State Cup. To be crowned champions on 4 occasions, tell us what groups they were in, whether they were mixed or men's, and that feeling of coming away, we're the best in the state.
Yeah, so the first one was with our mixed over 30s team, and the thing for me about touch football is being able to play with your mates. And when I was kind of at the peak, I had approaches from teams in Sydney, some of the powerhouses down there, like your Parramatta's in the south, that said, "Matty, come and play for us." And I guess while that was appealing, for me it was about playing with my mates, and to win our first one with guys and girls who I've been playing with since mixed opens. Was just a huge thrill. It was a leaf. It was elation. It was a huge celebration that night. Let me tell you. But again, for me, it was just I always play the game because I love playing with those people close to me. And that was the first one. And the next 3 we won were pretty much with the same team, different age division, but with those players you'd played with for so long.
Yeah, one of the famous teams, I think, going back a little way, was Forries. Forries was the benchmark. I mean, they had the BBs and a lot of guys that lived around there, and they were really like the gun team of touch football on the coast. Everyone knew them, and they would recruit players, wouldn't they? If they saw someone like yourself from someone, got to get him in, and they'd bring them in. They'd bring in other guys to keep that winning record going. They were a pretty amazing team for a long time, weren't they?
Yeah, look, and I had those leaders amongst them that others wanted to go and play with. I think I might have played a season with Forries at one time there because they were good blokes, they were good players, and they're people that you wanted to be around. I think that culture speaks a lot about any team.
Yeah,
and that's certainly what we've had with our mixed teams over the years.
Matt, you spoke about it started as Woy Woy Touch. It's evolved to Peninsula Touch now. You've been involved on the committees as well, but tell us that transition when you, from a player, you thought, I want to be a coach as well. I want to get in. How was that, and what sort of ways did you take and how I want to coach this game into instructing with the youngsters?
Yeah, it was the early days when Peninsula Junior Touch started up, and the original crew that kicked things off there. And they said to me and my mate Rod, they said, "Look, we need some coaches. You guys know what you're doing. Let's, can you lead some of our junior teams?" We thought, "Oh yeah, let's give this a crack." And look, I never had any real desire to coach, but I think I enjoyed the challenge. And I enjoyed, like most coaches do, I enjoy seeing that development of players individually and as a team, and what you can do to bring them together and get the best out of them. And look, while at times I may not have got the best out of them, I certainly enjoyed the challenge and seeing those players developed. And coached some of the guys like a Nico Hines back in the day. I coached him as a junior, and I'm not claiming any of these successes.
This is your podcast, man. You can claim all the success, and he played a big role in his success. Let's go for that.
No, not at all. But the quality of players I had throughout the years was actually really good in those early days of Peninsula. So I was blessed to have a good bunch of kids to work with too, and parents and families.
Yeah, exactly. Did you ever have any interesting parents of kids that you had to deal with and calm them down a little bit, because that's part of sport? Some parents get a little bit too pushy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, look, you always do, but you as a leader of that team need to know how to address that and how to manage that, and it's about building those relationships. So if you've got good relationships with the players, with the parents, you can have that conversation and manage those kind of issues as well. Right?
Back off, pal.
Well, Matt, you have coached State Cup winners as well. Tell us what that feeling's like compared to being a player to achieving that level as a coach, the fulfilment.
Well, look, most of those successes came as a player and a coach, which is an extra challenge in itself. And I guess while I wasn't the sole coach, I had a lot of people in that team to bounce stuff off. Again, it's about that joy of bringing the best out of your team, and we're able to do that as a collective group of leaders and coaches in that team to achieve those successes. So it adds an extra thrill, but also adds an extra element of pressure and responsibility, which at times I enjoy, But there's also times which I go, it's time for me to take a step back. Someone else can take the reins. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. The evolution continues. You're now enjoying watching and coaching your kids. And of course, one of them's got a very famous name. We're going to mention it during the podcast, mate. Come on, your son's name?
Is Tom Sawyer.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So that must be a different thing, coaching your young sons or kids, but not giving them any preferential treatment. And you can go the other way, can't you? So you've got to be really in tune with everybody, not just your kids, but the whole team.
Yeah, you do. And I was probably the kind of dad or coach that probably went a bit harder on my kids. And that didn't work well with my son. We tended to clash, whereas my daughter Jess, she was a bit more like me. She's a bit more laid back. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to coach your kids at touch footy. But look, the year that we took our mixed open team away, and I was coaching them, we played. It was mixed open B, so the level below the championship team. It was a massive thrill for me because I coached both my kids. I coached some of my closest family friends' kids as well. And the grand final we played, I term it the perfect game of touch football. I think we beat Wagga. It might have been 11 or 13-4, something like that. We absolutely smoked them.
Yeah.
And everything went right that day.
Sure.
And as a coach, bringing your team together, you go, wow, this is what I coach for.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the success. Yes, we won, but it was about that they did everything right. They worked together. They put team before self, and the results showed. And that was a magical day. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Matt, I spoke in the introduction about longevity being a great measuring stick, for success. How do you keep that passion for the sport, having played for so long, near on 40 years? How do you maintain that passion for it?
Yeah, it's a hard one. I guess clearly because I'm not playing this year, maybe I've lost a bit of that passion. But I think as you get older, it's harder to get the body right. It's harder to get fit, and I've never been a naturally fit kind of person. I've always had to work at that. With a few injuries, it's kind of hard to get back up every year. But I guess as a testament to how much I enjoy touch footy, I'm going up there this year. I'm not playing, I'm not coaching, I'm just watching. So, and that's how much I enjoy the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess the passion probably wanes at some times, but I still love the game. I still love watching it and playing as well. But just not this year at State Cup.
Yeah, mate. You're employed in sport. That's your job, and you've obviously played like touch. What do you do to get away from it? Shut down, forget sport, forget touch. What do you do? In how do you relax?
Yeah, look, I love surfing. I'm no Mick Fanning, but I love
Not many people
more
are.
Parker. I think more Parker.
Yeah, not even Parker, not even a scratch. But look, I love being out there in the water on the board, and
good.
I do that. Look, I love obviously spending time with the family, but I think we're so lucky here on the Central Coast to have so many beaches and waterways that we can enjoy, and I love being on the beach, whether that's swimming, whether that's surfing, or just being there is the way I kind of relax.
Yeah, great.
Matt, I was involved in the game of football, and there's so many contentious arguments over the penalty shootout. In touch, it's similar. You get to that draw at full time. There's the drop off where players lose. You lose a player each. Or there was the 1v2 or 2v1 in that where the crowds would come around, especially at State Cup, to watch those. What did you prefer if the scores were locked at full time?
Look, I think back in the day, the shootout, the 2-on-1 competition created so much more excitement because all the other games had finished. Everyone would flock to this little 10 by 20 box they'd set up, and there'd be spectators 100 deep down the sidelines, and like that served the purpose back in the day. I think the drop off now is a better way to do it. It's much shorter, and players aren't having to spend 10 minutes extra playing. It's done and dusted in a couple of minutes most times. So look, the drop off is the better way to go, and they've evolved that in itself over the years as well.
Just before we go, mate, do you ever play in a huge crowd that watched a game? Was there a game against the New Zealand team or Cook Islands, whatever? Was there a really big crowd in attendance watching you and your team play their side? What's the biggest crowd you've had, you reckon?
Look, it's probably been State Cup where you play a final on the stadium and you have maybe a couple of thousand.
Yeah.
Who knows? But look, overseas probably not as much, but certainly lately at State Cup when there's such a big buzz around, people just flock and they love
For the grand
high
final.
quality games.
Yeah, great stuff.
Matt, what's the best piece of advice you were given throughout your career that you now pass on to your children or youngsters that ask for that advice?
Well, there's probably two things. One, it's about not assuming that you know everything as a player. You've got a lot to learn, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And look, as I mentioned, coaching my kids was difficult. But one thing I always tried to instill in them was the importance of team and sacrificing your own glories and your own success for that of the team around you. And I think that builds success, that builds character within a person as well. So putting team above self is always something that I try and instill in any of my players.
Absolutely. All right, mate. Well, it's been a tremendous experience. We know you well from a long association in sport. Congratulations on your life and career in touch footy. It's been a pleasure having you as part of our CCSC Victory Wrap Sports Podcast. Matty Sawyer.
Matt, I'll leave you with 50-50 now. You've achieved so much in life and in the game of touch. 50-year-old Matt has a chat with that Matt Sawyer at 17 when he's starting to make those CHS representative teams. What does he say?
He says, get out of your comfort zone, be uncomfortable, and learn from it.
Right, nice words indeed.
Excellent,
all right, now
mate.
thanks.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks again to our sponsors, CCSC, Central Coast Sports College and Play Awake. And back with another sports podcast real soon. Good stuff, Matty.
Thanks, guys.